So I wanted to fit an external socket kit to my Roland MC-202. Now, as standard, the CV and gate signal go through the internal CPU of the Roland MC-202, which does introduce a latency, which you'll hear if you ever use one, and it also limits the rate at which you can play notes and other things. So the workaround is to bypass the internal CPU and interface directly with the synth of the unit. And you can do that with a number of mods, and Kenton, who also did a socket mod for my TR606, does one for the MC202. So I purchased it, and then I set the evening aside and installed it. And this is what happened. Right, so let's have a look at what's in this Kenton kit. Got a receipt. So the kit was £33, and there was £8 postage plus 20% VAT. We've got the fitting instructions here. Looks pretty detailed, so we'll be needing those. There is a manual for the kit once it's been installed. I'll read that later, I think. And there's the kit itself. Let's see what's in there. There's a resistor, some stickers, some foam pads. And we've got the 5 sockets here, and they've been very neatly wired and soldered with flying leads, diodes, resistors, and what appears to be a transistor of some sort. So that's pretty encouraging. Let's read the first step of the instructions. I've got the MC202 here. So, the kit contains wiring harness, 1 resistor, foam pad, labels. Yes, correct. Read all of the instructions before starting. I did actually read the instructions earlier. So, first of all, remove batteries if installed. There's no batteries installed in this unit. Now, remove knobs and slider caps. Now it says remove base screws, 7 of them. There's a diagram here of how to remove the battery compartment. I didn't need to remove this cover, but I wanted to see what the state inside was of the battery compartment, and there has been some leaking of the batteries in this particular unit. But it's not that horrible. I can probably clean that off if I really wanted to. But what I'll do now is to desolder these battery terminals. Okay, good. Now you can see here where this spring has got all rusty. The next step is to lift the circuit board out of the case. There we go. The circuit board out of the case. And now we have to drill 5 holes into the top of the case. Right, so it says top of case, right hand side. That's this edge here. Right, so the holes are 4 millimeters from the bottom edge. So use this metal ruler here to measure 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters isn't a huge amount, so I hope that there'll be enough meat in the case to accommodate those 6 millimeter holes. This is where it gets a bit hairy because those holes are super close to the edge. Those aren't too bad on this side, but I am going to try and tidy them up a bit. Just reinforcing those holes with some super glue, and if I hold this far enough away it shouldn't disturb the positioning. Right, this needs a file, so that's the end of the drill stuff. There we go, that's this side marked out. Well, that's the case done. Right, now we have to do some mods on the circuit board. Let's put the case to one side now. So the first step is to very carefully cut tracks marked with an X. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks marked with an X. For cutting tracks I like to use a scalpel. I will also use this multimeter to make sure that it is properly cut. So first thing, this diagram on this sheet here is not the full circuit board, it's only a part of the circuit board. So that makes it a lot easier. You can see the CPU here matches the CPU here, so actually there's quite a bit more of the board that they've not shown, so that will make it easier for you to find certain things. It's kind of hard to see exactly what they want you to cut, so you will need to be very, very careful. God, this is really, really unclear. Alright, 2 more tracks to cut. The problem is it's just so hard to map from this diagram of traces to the actual circuit board because the photocopy is not the best, but I am doing okay so far. Right, fit the 470R resistor. Right, so I've soldered one end of that 470R to the pin of the chip. 470R done. Noting polarity, move C76 and C72 to the other side of the board. Now that must be because they need space, those sockets. Alright, that's one of them moved, C76, so the next one is C72. Which looks like a bit more of a challenge actually, because there is components all around that. Hopefully that will fit, it's sticking up quite far. I don't know, that is touching. Right, that's not touching the base anymore though, so I'm going to roll with that. Right, so we have now to solder the sockets themselves on. That's the back. So try and get the sockets orientated correctly. So accent is at the back. And accent is red and white, so it goes like that. Right, that's 3 out of 5 sockets. Fucking hell. The last wire is the accent. Whew, I do not recommend this for beginners, in case you were wondering. Alright. That was intense. Secure the thin wires with sticky pads. Alright, well, we can do that. You probably don't need to do this, but I am going to, because the wires are just so thin. And I'm not convinced about the reliability. Jesus Christ, this is tough. Seriously tough. I'll show you what we have so far. Although it's been complicated, I think my soldering has been pretty decent, even though I say so myself. Right, fit jack sockets in the order shown on page 2. Replace circuit board in case. Resolder connections to battery compartment. The difficulty is fitting the last jack, well, the last 2 jacks really, into the case because of the output jack on the PCB, which is stopping the case from closing because it interferes with the last 2 jacks. But I think I have a plan for working around that. So what I'm going to do is, I've got the soldering iron on, and the jack with the violet connected, which is the wire connected, which is the portamento. You don't need the one side is not connected, so I'm going to clip that off. That should give a bit of clearance. I've changed the black wires so they're dressed in a different way, so now I just have to move the white red wire and the orange wire a bit further in. Let's hope that's enough. Let's see if that will close now. I'm hoping that'll be enough just to clear it. Well, it's far better, but it still doesn't quite fit. Well, nearly, still nearly. I'm going to dress that last jack a bit more. Now, I'm literally had to reorientate every single jack. Finally, that is sitting properly. Good. That was a big old faff, an extra half an hour to redo the jacks, but it is done. So what do we do now? resolder the connections to the battery compartment. Better remove some of the crap from this spring quickly. This rust is coming off quite nicely, very quickly actually. Alright, that'll be good enough. Remove most of the corrosion from there. Let's replace this battery cover thing. Okay, good. Battery cover is in position. Put those screws in. And the finishing touch, which is these rather fetching stickers. I'll go here. Alright, there's these other sockets here. Job done. That was epic. So now that I've shown how I installed that Kenton socket kit, let's test it now. So I've just programmed like a simple synth sound into the MC-202. As you can hear, that's being triggered by the internal keyboard just fine. But let's try some of these sockets. So the first one I'm going to connect is the gate, which I've got connected to this purple cable. And I will insert that into the gate connection. So now when I press a key, it triggers the MC-202. There's at the moment no control over the pitch. Every note sounds the same pitch. So let's connect the pitch up now, which I've got. The pitch CV is on this green wire. Plug that into the CV there. So now when I play it, I should have perfectly in tune notes. Which is working well. When I press the keys on the internal keyboard, they don't work anymore. Now I've got a third wire here. This is connected to the mod wheel on the key step. And I'm going to connect it to the filter control. Let's see what we get. It's working perfectly. The filter is being modulated by the mod wheel. Perfect. Now we do actually have two other connections on the MC-202, which I will test in a different way. So the last two connections are for activating the portamento and activating the accent. So I'm going to start by programming just a simple sequence into the MC-202 like that. I'll set it to loop, and then I'm going to individually try the portamento and the accent. So the gate signal I'm now going to connect into the portamento jack. Let's play the sequence. Now when I press a key, what should happen is that the notes slide into each other. That's working perfectly. And the final socket is for the accent. Let's see how that works. I'm going to set the accent control to full, and I'll just trigger the gate by pressing a key, and we'll see if there's a difference in sound. There's not, but the reason for that is you need to have the VCA on envelope mode for it to work. Switching from gate to envelope, it'll sound a bit different now. Okay, and I'll press one of the keys. Right, that's clearly triggering the accent. So I don't know how often I will use those controls for the portamento and accent, but I certainly will use the first three for the CV, gate and filter. And we can do some funky things. Let's put this into ARP mode and just trigger an ARP. Change the gate time to be longer on the key step, 90% gate now. Brilliant. It's working a treat, isn't it? Now, as you can probably tell, that wasn't a particularly enjoyable process. It took me 3.5 hours in total to install the Kenton socket kit, and there was a couple of issues with the kit, as you saw. So first of all, they counted the pins wrong on the main CPU, and secondly, the sockets needed to be redressed, the cables to make them lower profile. And generally that photocopying of the layout wasn't the best, and it was open to quite a bit of interpretation. But other than those issues, the kit worked perfectly right out the box, and the instructions were good. And I think when you consider the price of the kit, it is quite good value. But this is not a modification to be attempted by beginners. There's quite a lot of very fine wiring, and you do need to know what you're doing. The MC-202 is a vintage bit of kit. It can be somewhere between 500 and 700 euros, depending on, you know, the time and day, the condition of the unit, and so on. So I wouldn't attempt this as a beginner project, that's for sure. But I hope that you enjoyed the process, and I hope what I learnt, if you do install such a kit on your MC-202, will kind of illustrate the problems you might run into. In the end, I am happy with the results. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you'll consider liking the video, and maybe even subscribing to my channel. That would be fantastic. So thanks a lot, take care, and I'll see you in another video soon.